Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax while we chat about maybe, maybe not relax even, maybe just sit back and get ready for a week that is off and running. It is good to be back with all of you today after a very emotional weekend as we, as a family, said goodbye to my sister, Edie, and had some drama along with it. I swear my family cannot take trips without drama. It's too funny. The first year we all took a big vacation, we went to Disneyland, and half of us came home with COVID. And one of my grandkids that time didn't get to go to Disneyland or Universal Studios or anything because he was so sick. And then the next trip was my sister's funeral last year in June when she passed away in Vegas. And I tried to fall and tried to break my hand and also came home with COVID. I did, and my other daughter and my husband. And this time, oh my gosh, not to be outdone, it's one thing you're at a funeral. We go through it's a very long day, right? From the beginning, um, where you have the actual service, and then you go to the graveside, and then you go back to the reception. So by the time it was all said and done, it was early afternoon, late afternoon, actually, it's probably 2 or 3. And we ended up back at our house that we rented, and we're just kind of sitting there, you know, kids are playing games, and I was just relaxing, kind of decompressing after all that emotion. And my daughter gets up and walks into the house and then blacks out, falls, hits her head and her back, and her daughter trying to catch her as she's falling. And then it appeared she was on the floor having a seizure, and we're all like, I'm standing there and I'm seeing this going, oh my God, this can't be. She's like pale as a sheet and white as a ghost. And I had my phone in my pocket, luckily, and pulled it out and called 911, got them there. And it turns out she's severely anemic. And her hemoglobin, her ferritin, her whatever, all of those numbers were so low that they could hardly get a blood pressure out of her. And so she was whisked off to Prosser Hospital, little teeny tiny hospital, and spent several hours there getting not only a blood transfusion, but a iron infusion before they would let her go. Like, so we didn't, we went right from the funeral basically to a hospital emergent situation. I, needless to say, felt like I had been through every shocking event that could happen. And today, I'm happy to say Jennifer is doing much better. She's feeling, more herself, but still has a road ahead of her to get those numbers back into order. Anemia is nothing to mess with, young ladies out there. So make sure you get that checked periodically. So that all was occurring, of course, at the full moon. Right? The 12th was my sister's funeral. The 12th was when Jennifer had this episode where my family was thrown into the midst of chaos and craziness. And it was, we knew it was going to be quite a doozy of a full moon anyway, because so many planets were involved, so many, connections going on. Eris on one side, Uranus on the other, of the moon and or I mean of the sun, and with the moon over in Libra trying to balance it all, trying to keep it all in shape. What when was really happening is chaos was reigning supreme. But it all turned out well. We are back home after sitting in traffic for 2 hours. It was crazy coming home too. It took us about 6 hours to get home when normally it's about a 3.5 to 4 hour drive. And we made it, right? We're back. and I'm ready to open up a new chapter. And it's a good thing because this is a week that I, kind of tongue in cheek titled Getting Your Running Shoes On, because now that on Saturday after the full moon, Venus went direct. So we no longer have any planets in retrograde. So from now until May 4th, when Pluto turns retrograde, we have like go signs, right? I need Tam's go sign because it's all go, right? So, and that short of a window means that it might be intensely time to start something new. And then Saturday's full moon, of course, highlighted relationships and maybe gave you access to some form of emotional insight, right? Something that gave you this aha moment. And then in all of that, the search to balance out all of these, different relationships. And what came up for you over the weekend is now ripe for reflection and for release, letting it all go. The full moon, right, shines this bright spotlight on some area of your chart and allows you to begin this process of letting go or changing the landscape or starting something new, clearing the way, as it were, for that to happen. And interesting because that full moon in my own chart was in the fourth house of home and family, and the balance of work and life, home life, because on the opposite side of the fourth is the 10th house where the sun would be. So it made sense to me that, I would be in the family, in with my family and my extended family as well, and how that, brought up a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, a lot of mysteries that were sort of solved during this period of time. It was kind of fun. And now today we move into the moon in Scorpio. So now we have this completely different feel to the energy where, Libra was a Libran moon is more about let's balance our relationships, let's dig into love, and let's, be all together. Scorpio is not that way necessarily. It's more deep and intense and emotionally intense for people, and can be a very transformational kind of energy. So as you move out of one sign, the moon takes you into a different sign, one that is almost the exact opposite, perhaps, of the one previous to it. So, where the Libra moon was all about relationships, the Scorpio moon takes us into a time that's perfect for doing some inner work, for shadow healing, and for spiritual depth, right? Going into the deepest heart of the spirit. And interestingly enough, we're sitting here in our human design with the earth playing host to the gates in the spleen center, where our shadow energies could be, up for us to look at and for us to heal through. And Scorpio just happens to be a great sign for healing, for your healing energy. And it could also bring us a time then to process the things standing in our way of moving forward, perhaps, before we actually charge ahead. And funny thing, because this week, Monday today, Tuesday tomorrow, are 2 days that the moon in this week will be in Scorpio, and they're the 2 days that don't have any real transit energy happening. So the moon holds sway here. I mean, there's just nothing of real, depth going on until we get to Wednesday. And by Wednesday, the moon is in Sagittarius. So today and tomorrow, we have kind of a respite, perhaps, or a time period where we can just, you know, get a read on where we are, on where we've been, on where we want to head next. And then get your running shoes on because as we head into Wednesday, we have that's the day where well, we right now, even today, we have all the planets direct, and that's the day Mercury actually moves forward back into Aries, where he first began retrograde earlier or at the end of March. And so we're ending a cycle that's kind of couched in the beginning of a cycle, right? Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, And remember, Aries and Venus are fairly locked together in their transit at this moment. And she went direct on Saturday. So now we have all of these things that are pushing us toward moving forward. So there are no retrogrades at this moment slowing us down or asking us to do more internal work first. But it might be a good idea to get a kind of time period where you can decide, what do I want to do next? Where do I want to go? The cosmic momentum is building this week, and we do have these green lights everywhere, right? Even today and tomorrow, even though we have this moon in Scorpio that's kind of creating some more emotional depth, we still can move forward, right? It's not, there's nothing really telling us that we have to hold back anymore. And that means that we're in an ideal window for launching, for initiating, or making bold moves, right? In the chart, there's quite a bit of energy now sitting in Aries, and Aries being that sign of moving forward. So then when Mercury moves into Aries, it will, day after it moves in, so 16th Mercury moves into Aries, and then right into the arms of Neptune, newly in Aries. So it's going to be an interesting week, I think, as we start to see the inner planets now that are coming to visit Neptune, right? And see, what's up here with Neptune in Aries now. And Mercury returning to Aries kind of raises the pitch of everything of the energy, but also begins, to increase the speed at which we're thinking and at the speed at which we're talking, and also the tenor of what we're speaking of. For example, maybe we're, it's hysterically funny. I just realized this morning. Terry asked our, device, Alexa, um, a question, and she answered him in like, like, like she had taken the speed and doubled it, tripled it. And I was like, what the heck? So even Alexa is now speaking boldly, quickly, right? We have this feeling of wanting to move fast, right? We've been kind of stuck in the mud, if you will, and or slowed down a bit. And this week, all of that is changing, right? All of it. So we're returning more to bold speech, to more decisive action. When Mercury was in retrograde and Venus was also in retrograde, it slowed down our decision making. And now we're returning to that. So it's time to speak your truth, to act on your insights, the insights that you gained from the retrogrades, and lead with your voice. It's really time to step out into the crowd, and it's time to stand up for yourself and do the things that you are here to do, and lead with your voice. Right? Lead with your voice. We do still have to watch out for a couple of things. For example, impulsive reactions. It, even if we had one planet in Aries, we would need to watch out for this, right? But we have more than that in Aries. So watch out for impulsive actions and respond rather than react to the things that are stimulating your mind, right? Or your heart during this week. Respond with awareness of what it is that you're doing, of what the steps are that you want to take. Reaction, of course, can cause more trouble. It can, pull us into conflicts and confrontations that maybe we're not quite ready for. So slow things down just enough to respond rather than to react. And then as Mercury conjuncts Neptune, it'll be interesting to watch what happens in the news cycle this week. We're merging intuition and vision and communication all together, right? And I don't know, do we expect to see some great interesting insights about things that are happening? This will be a great week for us for downloads, right? For us to tap into spirit and receive the transmissions, if you will, from our higher self or from our souls. It's a great week for creative writing, or doing anything creative, really, and spiritual insight. And yet there may be some fogginess still. Neptune, even in Aries, is still foggy-ish, right? There's still this, things aren't quite clear. So maybe avoid signing anything impulsively, right? Read it through very carefully. If you're, needing to make a big decision this week, do it carefully. Not because, it's not the right time to move forward, but we're changing from this introspective energy into this more extroverted energy. And it means that, we could jump the gun too soon, right? Or jump ahead without actually having all the clarity that we need before we do that. So take your time, read any contracts, make sure that what you're doing is what you want to be doing. And it could also be a great week to turn your imagination into reality. And I would also say, it's a great week to let go of obligation, right? Doing the things that you want to do means that you might need to make the space for you to be able to do it because maybe you've overcommitted. Jupiter in Gemini, is kind of the culprit here where everything seems to be exciting and there's so much information and so much going around that maybe we say yes prematurely, or we say yes because we think it's one thing and then it turns out to be another. So watch out for doing those things that would cause you to overcommit. But by far and away, it is also a great time to course correct on anything that you over obligated yourself to, right? Even if it means you might need to hurt somebody's feelings, you could do it nicely. You could say, when I said yes to this, I was out of my mind. No, when I said yes to this, I was, being overly optimistic about what I could accomplish. And now I, sadly need to kind of pull back a little bit and reorganize my life, get my priorities straight, that type of thing. So this is a great week for doing that type of thing. Um, while I said avoiding signing contracts, but avoid signing contracts or getting into agreements without really fully understanding what it is that you're getting yourself into, right? Not don't do things from excitement and a rush. Do things from a more strategic point of view. All right. Let's stop and say good morning to everybody who's checking in. Hello to Julie. It's great to have you with us this morning. And hello, Diana and JLo. Happy Monday to you. Good morning, Joan. I know too much family drama. It's too funny. We were kind of laughing about it right afterwards. We're like, you know, family trips, maybe we ought to rethink them because somehow we always end up with some kind of drama. But it all turns out well, so nothing horrible. Jennifer just needs to take good care of herself. Good morning, Tamara and Amy D. It's good to have you. And Sharon, good morning. And yes, no problem. I sometimes like to overshare, so you can always tell me like TMI. We don't need to know all that. Asa, good morning. Londa, hello to you too. Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel. Hit the like button, please. So for all of you listening, please hit the thumbs up button if you are on YouTube. And if you are watching me on Facebook this morning, hit the like button. And please share the videos with your friends and your social networks. Good morning, Christine Buckingham and Asa. Uh, she's thanking Debbie for that reminder. Good morning, Teddy. It's good to see you. And a thank you to Teddy and Patty because twice now I've had to run off to the eastern side of the mountains and they have stepped in to take care of my precious little Binksy. Oh my Lord. And I so appreciate that you guys have done that for us. Good morning, Maggie, and good morning, Andy girl. It is great to see you all this morning. Okay, let's see what's next. We talked about Mercury conjunct Neptune. Oh, we're going to go into the new human design week now. Actually, we are in the old week, if you will, until the 15th. And on the 16th, we start a new week. And from the 10th to the 15th, and I think we talked about this last week before I had to leave, that the sun was in the gate of completions or celebrations at the completion. And Earth was in the gate 32, endurance, being there for the long run, persevering through what it takes in order to be successful in something or to bring something to completion, or even better, to bring something into that celebration time. And the gate 32 is on the spleen center, Earth at 32. And the spleen center, remember, is the center for thriving or surviving, and for time and intuition and health and well being. And so the spleen really mediates quite a bit of the energy that keeps us down and centered in our lives, right? Connects us to the earth. And with the earth moving through some of the gates here, or all of the gates of the spleen over the course of time, um, it's really about grounding ourselves and remembering that, fear is just kind of in our DNA. It's a sort of call where you have like hidden um, experiences perhaps, or beliefs that you're going to die perhaps, and we do die, but we're not mortal in the in the sense that we don't go on. And and there's so much evidence. I mean, I could go on and on about all the evidence that shows me and that I can share with you that life goes on, that they may not be here in the physical with us, but that life goes on. And so that fear of dying, which is sort of an ingrained fear, is one that can keep us from thriving. It can paralyze us, right? The paralysis of the fear in the spleen centers or center gates can keep us from really doing the things that we love. And the week that we're in right now with the earth at the gate of endurance, that particular gate's fear is failure, that we're not going to make it, that success is elusive, and that we have to keep trying harder and harder and harder to be successful. And how that can get twisted, right? It gets very twisted in the outer world when we are chasing success, not seeing it as we are successful in this moment. And the fear is that we're going to fail. And ultimately, all that is based in that we're going to leave the planet and not have made our mark or done our life's work. And yet, here it is. You're all here and you're all following your soul's template for what it is that you came here to do. And, there was an interesting moment yesterday before we left Eastern Washington. We stopped and had breakfast all together. There were 18 of us for breakfast that morning. And as we were sitting, waiting for everybody to arrive, I was having a conversation with my son-in-law about spirit and soul. And my daughter had made a comment about, you've planned this, or, you came here to do this, Mom. And Aaron was like, "What are you talking about? You came here to do what?" So it was an opening that was really awesome to have with someone who's, he teeters, he's not religious by any means, but he's not really spiritual. He's just very down to earth and pragmatic. So we got to have this wonderful conversation about the plans that we make before birth as souls to come here and do certain things. And there's never any question from the position of the soul about whether you're going to survive or thrive or be successful. The soul is just here for the experience, and the experience is laid out in the pre-planning, perhaps, of this particular life. And he couldn't quite wrap his head around that. So I'm obviously going to have more of a conversation with that on him. But for all of you guys listening here this morning, thinking about this idea of the spleen center and thriving, and what does that mean? What does it mean to thrive? Even, in the midst of the dramas and the chaos and the traumas that we have in our lives, we are still thriving, hopefully, right? In at least in the way that it is that your soul set you up to be here in this body, in this time, with these experiences. And as we then move out of the week where success and failure are a part of the equation, we move into on the 16th, the week where the sun comes to rest in the gate of innovation and inventiveness, and the earth comes into the gate of nurturing. So the gate 3 for the sun and the gate 50 for the earth. And, the sun at gate 3 is a fascinating gate. I think, and everybody has a gate 3. You all have gate 3. Nobody is missing it, right? It might be undefined, meaning it's white and there's no energy there by birth. So it's open and you experience inventiveness through other people or through the interaction of planets as they come to rest on the gate 3. Some of you may have the gate 3 already defined by another planet. Maybe it is the sun if your birthday is right around now. And so you're an innovator in some way, right? You've come to this planet to be a change agent, and herein lies the most interesting part of the gate 3 energy, is that we all have come to the planet in some way to leave our mark. And it doesn't have to be like a big mark, like somebody famous that, leaves this, legacy of music and that type of thing, or, poetry or books or whatever. But maybe you've left your mark on the people that you've touched or talked to, or the people in your family who needed your love and your support. Small, big, doesn't matter. This particular gate reminds us that as humans, we are all here to we have a plan, right? There's something here that we're a part of. Maybe we're part of a big change. I would say that everybody alive on this planet right now who's witnessing this big shift of energies that are happening, and even though they're a bit chaotic, that's putting it mildly, and that, the world is, in disarray. Things are not the way they used to be. We can't count on anything. We all came here to be here at this time. And that is a signature of change, right? The gate 3 of innovation is all about the changes that we need to make. But often what happens here is in the I Ching, this is the gate or the hexagram that's called difficulty in the beginning. And so it is kind of that energy of when you're trying to get your feet running, right? We don't go from 0 to 60 in, running, or to your top speed in running in 1 second. It just doesn't happen. You have to get your feet under you and build up that momentum. And change is the same way, right? We know we're headed somewhere. We're not quite sure where that is because we're still in the midst of this change. We're still getting our feet underneath us so that we can move forward. And as we begin to move forward, change begins to happen. And that is the sun at the gate 3, or having a gate 3. The people that have the gate 3 are often change agents on the planet, and they feel different. So I would dare say that from April 16th through the 21st, every one of us at some point may feel like they don't fit, that you're a square peg in a round hole, or that the things that you're trying to do aren't just happening like with ease and grace. They might be, with fits and starts, or, having to be rewritten or re-strategized during that particular week. And, that's a totally normal part of the gate 3. It's a theme, really, that's about a new beginning. And it fits quite nicely with the energies on the planet at the moment. But you have to embrace a little bit of the creative chaos that comes along with it, and not needing a perfect plan, because the plan will be disrupted. It'll be disrupted. And just as soon as you think you're headed west, then suddenly you're yanked east, right? As soon as you think you're headed toward, point A, suddenly a point B shows up. And we have to be willing to start out messy with the gate 3. And yet it's just begin, right? Just do something. Just take that first step. And yeah, you might fall, you might stumble, you might have to, rethink a plan. But if you don't start, you'll never go anywhere. So it works out quite nicely. And then as well with the gate 3, we have this energy sometimes of change that is a little ahead of its time. Like a lot of times I hear this particular thing from some of my clients, like, I don't feel like I fit in, or I feel like I'm out of time, or not out of time, like I don't have enough time, but I'm in the wrong time, that I should have been born 20 years from now, or I should have been born 10 years before I was born, something like that. And that's a gate three thing as well, where sometimes we just feel like we aren't fitting because either our vision has taken us so far ahead that we can see where we're not, and we lose sight of how to get there. And sometimes it can work the opposite way. We're holding ourselves to a past and holding ourselves, to the good old days that they're not there, right? They're not there anymore. So the gate three is really going to be about taking us on the next leg of our journey. And yeah, it's going to be messy. And yeah, it's probably going to be full of, traumas and dramas. But if we don't start moving in any direction, we're not going to go where we want to go. So the gate three suddenly defined for everybody who has it open, and another planet at that gate if you already have a planet sitting there. Now, while that is happening, the Earth is in the gate 50, which is on the spleen center because we're still grounding through the fears of the spleen. And this particular gate is called nurturing. And it's really a grounding energy that the grounding comes through caretaking or caregiving or just taking care, right? Making sure that everybody is protected, making sure everybody is fed and clothed and has the script of how to live their life, right? How to be able to move forward. And everybody has the values that they need in order to live the life, right? In a successful way. And the gate 50 itself is on the very deeply feminine tribal energy side of the human design. And tribal energy as a circuit in human design is all about love and relationships and how we care for one another. So it's the mothering energy, right? That it's the mothering, caring, nurturing part of love. And in this particular respect, the gate 50 is transmitting the values of the tribe or the family to the progeny, to the children, so that the children can grow up and become responsible, well adjusted adults and carry those values on into the world and even onto their children. Right. So it's very important gate, but it can get tweaked here because, there's fear involved in the gate 50. And the fear is that I'm going to fail in my responsibility to my family, to my tribe, to my community. And it can be a place where we try to take tight control over the people that we love. And not from a sense of, pure control, like I want to be an authoritarian, person. It's more that I need to take such strong care so that you don't fail, right? Not believing that failure is a part of how we learn and grow, right? So, and, if you're a mother or even a father, this feeling, right? This, I need to take care. I need to, make sure I'm there at every step so that you won't fall. So the 50 reminds us that self-nurturing is as important as nurturing others, right? If I don't, it's like the stewardess on the airplane, right? If your air mask falls, you have to put yours on first because if you can't breathe, you can't help others. And um, then it also reminds us that a part of the job of mothering and nurturing is to allow others to make their mistakes, to allow them to grow through potentially making their own mistakes. And, not there's nothing that you can really do to prevent your child from falling, right? Or from failing or from getting hurt. It's part of life. So the gate 50 says, you know, protect and nurture to transmit the values, the rules, if you will, and, get them ready to be on their own. But don't forget that in the process, you must take care of yourself as well. And there is a very stabilizing energy with the earth here that can really help to maintain the ability of the sun in the gate 3 to be innovative, right? To take those steps that are messy and possibly, things that happen that you didn't expect. But if you have the grounding in self-nurturing, then you can do anything, right? You can take that next step confidently, and if something happens that you didn't expect, you'll still be able to go on. So, the gate 3 and the gate 50 are with us until from the 16th to the 21st, and keep that in mind as you're moving through your life. What do you need to do to nurture yourself? And are you over nurturing others from a fear that they'll fail? And if so, then how can you allow them to learn to become accountable and responsible for themselves? All right. Let's see. J Lo, we have 17 people here listening. Please show some reciprocity for my time by clicking that like button. God, I love you, J Lo. I love all of you anyway. So thank you. Get my channel noticed. It's a good thing. Then probably the best thing in the week. Maybe. I don't know. It's a good week all the way around for action, but Mars finally moving out of Cancer and back into Leo. And Mars, has been in Cancer since February, but was also in Cancer for a bit before that. And then he went retrograded from Leo back into Cancer, and then moved forward and has not yet moved forward out of Cancer and into Leo. So, yay, we're getting another dose of some bold, forward moving energy this week, as on the 18th, Friday, Mars will move back into Leo, where he started his retrograde way back in December, right? Can you remember back that far? So much has happened since then. And this is fire, a fire planet in a fire sign. Mars loves Leo's bold, creative flair, its self expression, its creativity. It energizes then each of us to be more self expressive, to live more confidently and from our passion. And yet we're still, I mean, Mars is still going back over old territory. So there might be some things that come up that were issues back in December, things that maybe creative projects maybe you started back then that just didn't get their feet because Mars went retrograde, right? So the time is now, right? This is time to take the stage, to step up, to turn the spotlight on yourself, and to be seen, right? To do the things that you've wanted to do, but for whatever reason, planets in retrograde or planets changing signs or traumas and dramas going on in your life that stopped you. Now it's time to move forward. And it also makes this next, several weeks after Mars moves into Leo, a great time for courage in leadership, for really stepping up in your life and being the leader that you were meant to be. It's also a great time for love and romance, for artistic pursuits, for having fun, for balancing the work and play in your life, right? That sometimes we get overly serious and we're too much in our work and we forget that, oh, yeah, there's this time I meant to spend with other people, having fun or playing games and things like that. And beware of ego flare ups as well. Bold energy can sometimes get, ahead of us. And there could be some drama. Leo is the drama king and queen, but it doesn't have to be drama in the ugly sense. It could be very good for us if we let our hearts lead us, right? Let your heart lead your action. So be brave, be courageous, be generous, be joyful, and be assertive, right? Step forward, live your life on your terms, right? It doesn't mean that you have to hurt others in the process. So I think, it'll be a great time as Mars begins his transit through Leo, and he'll get beyond the degree that he went retrograde as we get into the early week, the first week in May. And how apropos, right? The spring is really busting out everywhere at that time. Everything feels like we can get moving. And his cohort Pluto will turn retrograde just after that. So it's almost this little cosmic joke. It's like move ahead, but then also pause, move ahead, then pause. So, as Pluto ends up in retrograde, Mars's action in Leo may become more deliberate, right? So at first, maybe a little chaotic and crazy, and I'm just free, I want to move. But then more strategic and more planned as we get into the early days of May. So I'm looking forward to that as well. At the end of the week, we end up with the sun moving into Taurus and the season of grounding begins, right? Taurus, the grounding earth sign after Aries, bold, stepping into the light energy and courageously, moving forward. Now we have to come to a point of grounding where we're shifting from Aries fire to steady Taurus earth. And, all of the ideas that we have, it's like all the seedlings that we, plant, now they need to be cared for and nurtured. And the focus will shift with the sun in Taurus on stability. And it will be more about resource building and, planting and nurturing what the seeds are that we have put into the ground. It's also an embodiment kind of energy where the physical is so powerful in Taurus energy that, we need to ground it, slowing down the pace even, encouraging us to root into what it is that feels good, that feels sustainable. And in fact, we're creating sustainably, hopefully, right? That's, you know, the fast start, jackrabbit energy of Aries has to give way to the more steady, bullish energy of Taurus in order for it to become sustainable. Like any program you've ever started, any art project you've ever started, anything that's worth its salt is going to have a fast start, maybe, or you jump into, and then has to slow down a bit and steady itself so it can stand the test of time, so it can be sustainable. And there's also the connection here of to Venus, Venus being the ruling planet for the sign of Taurus, where we have issues around self-worth, perhaps, that we're dealing with. Maybe financial foundations that we have to contend with. And then as well, beauty and nature and all the senses come alive, being out in nature, putting your feet in the grass or in the dirt. I know one of my big projects this week, if I have time, is going to be about weeding and getting, getting the winter yuck put away, right? All the dead leaves and things that I hadn't gotten to that hadn't blown away yet. Um, so, there's a couple of different themes during the season of Taurus that we watch for, and that mostly it's about building and how do we build something stronger, more lasting, by making the roots or the foundation strong. We also are watching for financial things, and I'm always watching the economy and the ideas of recession that are out there and all of that kind of thing. And Taurus energy tends to bring us some stabilization to that. So hopefully, we are able to do some things that stabilize the economy, but also your personal economy. And your personal economy is not just your money, it's your time, it's your energy, and your work life balance and all of that. And how are you managing all of your own personal resources? So it's not just money, it's resources. And of course, spending time, really valuing yourself. That is something that I think with Taurus energy, it's Taurus rules the second house of the astrology chart in the natural wheel. The second house is about self worth and confidence that allows us to earn more, right? We put the right dollar amount on ourselves or on our services or on the time that we spend doing something. And that comes from a sense of worthiness, right? Not from, trying to be it's not from a lack of confidence or a lack of worth, but being very worthy. Intrinsic value. There's the word I was looking for. Having intrinsic value and not needing to find your worth outside of yourself, right? Through the things you do or who you think others want you to be. So it'll also be a time for you to really claim your personal worth. Uh, so set about, right? J-Lo says, so funny having an intimate conversation with my 1-3 projector and how she keeps saying, I, and I try expressing, I can never change how you feel toward things. And she is aware, she stated, over analyzing. So she, a 1-3. So what J-Lo is speaking to is your role that you play in this life as in human design. We all have a role. A 1-3 is a very mind-oriented role that she is playing, an analysis, paralysis, invitation right there, where the 1 is all about investigating and looking deeper and resources that can give you more information. And, they're the ones that before they'll say yes to anything are always, digging into, well, the going to all the websites, looking up all the words, that they need to around the subject and, diving deep. They really do the information part of something really well. But that can also get them stuck in that analysis paralysis, right? Gets them stuck in the mind. And or sometimes it gets them stuck in continually looking for more information, but never actually taking action on anything. So the first line, we love our first line energies because they are all about that info. But she's also got the third line attached to that, the 1-3. And the third line is experiential. And in her life, and I'm assuming this is your daughter, maybe J Lo, the third line has to go out and bump into life. They have to go experiment. They have to go, experience things. They can't just stick in the mind. In their case, ideally, a 1-3 um, has this great idea or proposal that comes to them. They get online and they do all the research behind it, and then they go out and they try it. And it either blows up spectacularly or it is splendidly successful. That's what the third line does. They take the info and they go out and experiment with it. And then they might come back and do some more research because that didn't work so well. And then they'll go back out and try it another way. That ideally is what they do, but they can get caught in just the information, or on the other side, they just get caught up in the expression of the experiment without the due diligence of looking up the information. So, yes, and as a projector as well, with that 1-3, it can also get her triggered into anxiety, right? Because she could get so much information overload that then she's afraid to try something, or she's lost sight of, what she wanted to try. And then as a projector, she's trying to keep up with everybody else or be like everybody else. 70% of the world is generator types, right? So she's out there trying to keep up energetically with everybody else, and things aren't working the way that she thinks that they should work or that she would hope they would work. And she needs to be able to relax and just follow her path and realize for her that she doesn't fail, right? Nothing that happens with that third line is about failure. Even if it seems like, oh, yeah, that blew up, that isn't the way that works. It's the experience that she takes away from that, the learning that she takes away from that, that is the important piece, right? And then she could go back and research maybe, or, look up a topic, or let's try this a different way, and then go out and try it again. And that's what she's here to do, right? Back and forth between the looking up the resources and experimenting with the resources, and then going back and forth in that way. Her only failure, anybody that has the line 3 as part of their profile, your really only failure would be in not taking action, right? Not investing in the experiment, the actual doing of something. And it's really amazing to talk to third line people because almost all of them that I've ever talked to, and sometimes the sixth line can be like this too, because it has a triphasic life and the three is a part of it. Um, they are always excited to do something, right? Get into that new relationship or get into that new job, and then it doesn't work out the way they planned, right? Or some drama happens, and then they're back to square one, and then yet they'll try again at something different, and they find, almost all of them when you say, "But that's not failure for you, right? That's how you learn." Then they're like, "Oh, yes." It almost like feels like a relief for the third lines to understand that that is their path of life, right? Research if you're the one, action if you're the three. If it fails, back to one, and then back to three. And of course, there are other combinations of that as well that could create some other traumas and dramas. But for the most part, they need to do action. They need to bump into life. They need to risk failure in the normal sense for them is try again, right? Trial and error. Oops, that didn't work. Let's do it a different way. So life is a lesson for them, or actions are lessons for them. All right, thanks, J Lo. Um, she says, "I say what you think is a fail happens to be a lesson." Yes, for the third lines, the fail happens to be the lesson. Okay, really, that is about it for me this morning. Although, gosh, I still have 10 minutes, but I wanted to, just close things up by saying this week is really a bursting with momentum. Take advantage of it, right? Mercury is back in Aries. Mars is moving into Leo. The sun will be shifting into Taurus, and all of those planets are moving forward now, right? The inner planets that had us all tied up and stuck perhaps are now moving forward. And it's time for you to take aligned action, but to also stay grounded in what nourishes you, right? To also be somewhat strategic in the steps that you're taking. Ask yourself where you're ready to say yes to growth, right? Where are you ready to expand? And what support would help you to stay connected to your next steps, right? Is it through your astrology? Is it through your design and human design? Do you know everything that you need to know about yourself in order to trust yourself and your next steps? And that's why I'm getting ready to do I'm going to go backwards in time as I'm getting ready to open the doors to Living Astrology membership once more. Remember, I had that going until my son died, and I just couldn't keep up with all the things that I felt like I needed to share in the membership to make it worthwhile. And I want to make it a sacred space where we explore astrology and human design and galactic astrology and gene keys and you name it, right? Soul work and so forth. And in the membership, the plan is for you to receive guided insight, even a secondary sort of information to each broadcast for Mondays and Fridays that you would have access to, weekly support in your working through your own life, and exclusive content. I've already got several things planned out for that membership that are designed to help you live in sync with the cosmos, with your own self, being, you. And if you've ever wanted a place to learn and reflect and align with the celestial atmosphere, the currents in the deepest way possible, then this is your invitation. The plan is to roll this out May 1st, and more details will be coming soon, including how do you sign up, what is the price, what all will you receive in that, and trust that the universe is calling you into the next chapter, as I'm trusting that the universe is calling me into this as my next chapter. All right. Now, let's pull a couple cards, shall we? I think I want to draw Dream Weavers and a soul coaching card this morning. Dream Weavers is a deck by Colette Baron Reed, and it is one of my favorite decks that she has done. And then Denise Lynn did a soul coaching card deck, and I love both of these, but we have time this morning to pull 2 cards, so oop, we don't wanna skip one. So let's see what the week holds ahead for us, and I will be on air on Friday. What I don't know for sure yet is whether Pia and Cullen will be joining me. You know, they've made their move to Hawaii, and I'm excited to see them if indeed they're able to connect with us. All right, so I got card 26 for the wind that blows our sails. A beautiful card, right? A whale with wings, kind of a bat wing almost, it looks like. And 26 is an 8. 8 is about power and abundance. And let's see what this card has to say. The essential meaning of the card is forward momentum, coming out of a slow period, a time for action. How apropos. This is the time for action. Your obstacles have dissolved. You've integrated the deep work you've been doing, and you are on the other side of the dry spell. How wonderful now to have the energy to take the next steps unencumbered by the past. This is a time of new beginnings, of the excitement that comes with seeing your dreams coming to fruition after challenging work. Others may call you lucky, but you know what work it took to get here. The time of expansion is not one to take lightly or for granted. Smooth sailing is not always offered to you, especially as you venture into uncharted territory. Now, the wind that blows your sails is steady, and you feel the hand of the divine. Stay in touch with that partnership. Stay awake and aware as waves can rise up out of nowhere. Have confidence that you are sailing in the perfect direction, for you are moving toward the destiny that will help you flourish. Go the distance. Perfect, right? That's a very good card. For the wind that blows our sails. And then in the soul coaching deck, I know, perfect card, right? So I got to share something else. This is how intuitive things can be for us right now. We were at the reception for my sister's funeral, and I was sitting with my nieces and nephews and my husband at one table, and right next to me was the table with my kids and grandkids. They were all at this table, and there were probably, what, 12 of them sitting at this table, and they were playing a game, and I kept hearing this banging on the table, like what they were doing, and they called me over and said, "Mom, so there's a quarter under somebody's hand on this table." Their hands were flat on the table, and you need to tell us where the quarter is. And I looked at the table and I said, under it's Dallas has it. Dallas is my grandson. And they say, okay, well, what hand? And I said, it's under his right hand. And I'll be darned if the quarter wasn't under Dallas's hand. And then I didn't believe that I had just done that. So I made them all lift their hands so I could see that there was only one quarter on the table. So intuition, right? I didn't even think about it. I just said, it's under Dallas's hand. And the next card is courage. Look at that. Courage. Another good card for us to have as a message. And that is card number 13, which is a 4. That's a good grounding number to have. 13, of course, sacred. And the card meaning: throw your shoulders back, step forward, and take a risk. Be willing to listen to the beat of your own drum. Honor your truth. Speak up for yourself. Be impeccable in all of your actions. Your soul wants you to know that you have the radiant spirit of a warrior of light. This isn't the time to be timid and pull back. Don't allow yourself to be limited by your belief systems. This is the time to take action with passion and delight. Courage doesn't mean that you aren't afraid. Fearless means just that: fear less. Acknowledge that you're frightened and take action anyway. Face your anxiety and go beyond the boundaries of limited perceptions of yourself. You're a light bearer for others. Through your example, people find and act on their truth. And the affirmation for the week then is: I live life passionately and courageously. I'm going to show this. I live life passionately and courageously. Whew, I love it. All right. So that is courage. Kind of goes along with the card here that says, for the wind that blows our sails. All right. Perfect. Thank you all for being with me this morning. I will see you again on Friday. Not sure if it will be with Cullen and Pia or not, but if so, yay. If not, we'll have more information to share with you. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.